people tossed into it. Past the beer house and a row of travel agents and car rental outlets, Zelda wandered into the back streets off Konstantin Negruzzi Boulevard, and before she knew it, she was standing on the very corner from which she had been snatched. It was a narrow street, by Chisinau standards, tree-lined, with a mix of older, more elegant Russian-style buildings and modern uniform Soviet blocks, what Zelda called Stalinist architecture. Everything was grey and pock-marked, chipped and pitted. Very few cars passed by, as she stood, fixed to the spot. The old bar on the corner was gone, turned into a brand-new farmacia, complete with green neon cross. But the rest of the street was much the same. There, all those years ago, with the dazzling promise of a great future, Zelda's life as she knew it had come to an end. She remembered seeing the small scuffed suitcase break open on the cracked road surface, spilling what few possessions and memories of her dead parents she had. Her mother's music box, her father's scuffed leather wallet, the book Zelda was reading, Bleak House, her clothes, and the scrapbook and diaries she had diligently kept over her years in the orphanage, and her father's chipped shaving mug, which broke into fragments when it hit the concrete. And the photographs. It had hurt most of all to lose the photographs. While there were plenty taken with friends during her years at the orphanage, there were only 3 that showed her parents. It was too long ago to remember the details, but she did remember the day the suitcase arrived at the orphanage, only a few months after her parents' deaths, in 1992. The contents of the case were the only remnants left of her life from those days. One photograph showed her father, young and handsome, with a shy smile, and another her mother, wearing a bikini on holiday in Odessa, with a Black Sea in the background, pretending to strike a sexy pose and putting her hand over her mouth to stifle the laughter. The third showed a stiff and formal family group in a studio portrait taken when Zelda was about 3. She sat on her mother's knee, wearing what must have been her very best dress, hair tumbling in ringlets over her shoulders, and her father stood straight and serious in his suit, one hand on her mother's shoulder and the other on Zelda's. None of them smiled. All stared directly at the camera. Zelda had expected that she would feel angry or sad when she returned to the spot where she had lost everything, but all she felt was numbness. Whenever she had looked back on the life that had been stolen, she had simmered with hatred, but now, at the very spot where it had all begun, she felt nothing at all. She thought of all the cars that had driven by since then, all the people who had walked there oblivious, none of them knowing what momentous event had occurred there. Somehow, her own experience was lost in the ceaseless flow of quotidian life, as if she were Icarus falling into the sea, while all around him everyone went on ploughing their fields and tending their sheep. Now it was just a place, a street corner like any other. Sometimes she wondered who had picked up the music box, her book, the diaries, the wallet, and what they had made of it all. Had anyone actually seen her get taken? It wasn't until she approached the orphanage building itself that the full horror of the past hit her right between the eyes, and she began to tremble at the power of the memory. The building was still there, an early 20th century Russian construction in the classical style of dark stone with rococo touches. With its broad steps, small arched portico and chipped columns, it formed a contrast to the monstrous towers surrounding it. The windows on the lower floor had been boarded up, but the upper ones remained uncovered, jagged frames of broken glass. Zelda couldn't stop trembling, and the breath seemed to solidify in her chest. This had been her home between the ages of 4 and 17. This was the place that had made her what she was, or what she could have been. Now, though, it was a ruin, and so was she, and the irony didn't escape her. What the hell was she doing here, running away from the